Tyler Motte signs in Ottawa, and the question to follow up with that is, do the Rangers need to add another forward to make up for this?
Another forward for the Tyler Motte subtraction. Yeah, but obviously it hurt losing Motte. I mean, we kind of knew he was gone, but I mean, it was dragging out for a while, so we thought there was a chance he could return. But now that he's gone, yeah, maybe bring in one more forward on a PTO. But honestly, I think the Rangers are set. You know, you're rolling out your Kreider's advantage at Lafreniere, Kratsov, Panarin, Trocheck, Kako Heedle, Sammy Blake, Carpenter, Reeves, Hunt, or Goodrow. So I think they're good on the forward front. Maybe you could bring in a guy, but you also have Jimmy Vesey, a guy like that competing. So a familiar face there, but I don't
Which
think it's a necessarily need.
Twitter is telling me that Jimmy Vesey's better on the penalty kill, and I'm
Ugh.
getting sent the J Fresh charts, and I'm like, come on, what are we doing here with the J Fresh charts? Because number one, they don't factor in the playoff games. If you watched any ounce of the playoffs this past year, you would know that Tyler Mott, the significance of that he made to the penalty kill when he was out versus when he was in, it was just night and day the difference with the penalty kill with him and Goudreau. When those guys were out, Pittsburgh was getting power play goals. They were feasting on the power play. But when those two guys step back in, completely different. And yeah, I agree. Maybe a guy on a PTO. I was looking at a Derek Brassard, but of course Ottawa signed him too, right? So, thank
Yep.
you.
So
But
typical.
yeah, they're following me on Twitter, I guess. But yeah, I agree that the Rangers should be pretty set when it comes to the forward group. They should be pretty good. They have obviously your top six is set in stone, probably. Well, you don't even know what your top six is because we could
Yeah.
see go with a crazy line combination for all we know. But I'd say your top nine is set. You have Kreider, Zibanejad, Lafreniere. You have Panarin, Trocheck, Kakko. I'm just going how I would do the lines, and then you have Blake, Heedle, and Kravtsov for your top nine. So your top nine's locked. Your bottom line is going to have some sort of combination of Goudreau, Carpenter, and Reeves or Hunt. Maybe VC. I still would have liked the Rangers to have added another forward, and it just blows my mind though in terms of overall how nobody went after Tyler Mott at this price. This was such a steal of a price. I don't understand how more teams weren't in on this.
Oh yeah. I mean, I can't believe it took this long. Like a guy like Tyler Mott. I mean, fan base's question probably like why Ranger fans are so upset about losing this guy. If you just watch his impact, man, what he did when he came back in the playoffs, it was significant. It might have not seemed like it, a fourth liner, but he just brings you a little bit of everything. And it's crazy. This took all the way until basically training camp for him to get signed. But the Senators just keep on feasting in free agency, add Tyler Mott to that already extraordinary offseason. So, I mean, that's a great pickup for them. He's going to make a big impact for sure.
Yeah, for a team that had a lot of questions when it came to the bottom six, you weren't questioning their top six with how loaded it is. I mean, there was the whole debate everyone was going with when they got to Brinken, Giroux, oh, who's top six better, Leafs or Sens, whatever. But when it came to the bottom six, they needed to improve the team, and they needed to improve the team badly. And they went out and addressed a significant hole in that lineup, especially because you don't know what's going to happen when it comes to the allegations against what's his name? I don't know why I'm blanking
On
on
the
his name.
Senators, or like something with an F.
Yeah,
Something F mentioned.
Formont, uh, whatever his name is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
something like
you could have a hole in the lineup
that.
there, and they desperately needed to fill that bottom six out. So yeah, them adding Tyler Mott made all the sense in the world. But keep in mind, Ranger fans, I said in the video, and it could happen if Ottawa doesn't do well during the season. There is a chance that
Yeah.
the Rangers go get Tyler Mott back at the deadline, which that would
Oh my!
be
I'll cry, tears of
beautiful,
joy.
beautiful. But yeah, I think that there is a chance that it happens because Ottawa, I know I had them making the playoffs, but it's not a guarantee because we saw last year. Ottawa, I was personally high on Ottawa going into last season, and they flopped like crazy last season. So you never know. There are teams always where this team is going to be the team that makes the big leap, and then it just never ends up being them. And Ottawa, I could see totally being that team because of how hyped they've been this offseason. So yeah, I think there's a strong chance Mott comes back, and you definitely made great points. Other fan bases just don't realize how significant of a player Tyler Mott is. These guys don't grow on trees that are willing to go out there and put their body on the line when it matters most and go out there and block shots like crazy. These guys just don't grow on trees, and Tyler Motte was one of them. And yeah, I'm personally upset. It's not the end all be all. This isn't like the Rangers now all of a sudden are gonna have 5 less wins than they were originally gonna have in the season. It's not like that, but it definitely is a little bit of a kick in the balls, if you will, as I like to always say. It definitely is one. And we got some viewers in the chat. Mike, what's going on? We got Carpenter at about 800K or something. If you add Kravtsov, the Rangers have 200K free. Right. But the whole idea is if you figured out a way to move Ryan Reeves, which in my mind, they should have really tried to go that route. I think that it makes no sense at all to keep a guy like Ryan Reeves around who I don't know if he's going to be here by the deadline, quite frankly. I still think that he's gone by then. I don't know if you have a different opinion on that, Nico, but I would have moved Reeves in a heartbeat to guarantee yourself that you keep Tyler Motte because now if a guy goes down in the forward group too, like I'm sorry, but I don't trust Dryden Hunt or Ryan Reeves to fill out a bigger role, if you will.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think that Ryan Reeves, love him, don't get me wrong, but his $1.7 million cap hit is just so useless to the Rangers. I don't understand why Drury, in that offseason when he acquired him in 2021, signed him to a 1-year extension just like that. Like, why just play out the year with him and then you sign him back if it worked out and just let him go if it didn't, which it really didn't work out. He's not a great player anymore. So I'm not a fan. I think you got to move him eventually. I just don't think they're gonna do it. I think they're gonna let him play out his contract here, and he'll just be like, I guess, substituting in and out of the lineup. I guess if we need like heavy players in there against certain teams. So that's my standpoint on that. But yeah, definitely we're tight on the cap space for sure.
Yeah, it's just the only reason I think he's gone by the deadline is because of the fact that they're gonna view someone as a significant upgrade, whether it's a Patrick Kane, whether it is I I know that's your dream, but whether it's a Patrick Kane, whether it's whoever they're gonna go after at the deadline, there is a world where the Rangers are gonna have to clear up every ounce of cap that they can. And Ryan Reeves' 1.7 is it's not a significant chunk, but it is a little bit of a chunky contract there for your bottom 6. And overall, I mean, I'm willing to move that contract if you have to make a move. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see if they do that. I could also see them keeping him around because Gallant that's Gallant's guy. He's been there with Gallant the entire way through pretty much except for when Gallant was in Florida. But Ryan Reeves has pretty much been Gallant's pet outside of Patrick Nemeth last year, which was just absolutely ridiculous. And Drury had to step in and be like, no, you can't keep using this toy Gallant. But that's a whole other rant. George, how are you doing tonight? Mike says Revo is a Gallant guy, as I just said, so he is at least starting the season. Gallant wants him in the locker room.
Yeah.
Agree. There's no doubt that he makes a big impact when it comes to the locker room and overall just brings the energy to not just the locker room, but the fan base. The fan base loves the Shesty releases, videos, everything. Ryan Reeves is great as a person and just as a locker room guy. But when it comes to overall with the team being better, I'm sorry, Tyler Motte makes the team better and Ryan Reeves does not.
Yes, I totally agree. I mean, I love Ryan Reeves. Everyone loves Ryan Reeves. He does a lot in the locker room. But as you said, if the Rangers are going to want to go out there and target a big guy at the trade deadline, like it's just dead cap space in 1.7 million there with Ryan Reeves, who's not really doing much to impact the team. I mean, yeah, obviously from the standpoint, as we said, he gets the boys hyped up in the locker room, but on ice performance talking, it's just not there. And if we're gonna target Patrick Kane, yikes, who could even else be a
JT
target?
Miller anymore
Yeah, no
that
JT
was like the other
Miller.
guy.
He signs the extension, but there's gonna be guys available 100% that you're gonna want to go after to just bulk up this team and get them ready for another big run. So yeah, I mean it's just gonna have to happen. Unfortunately, I just hope Drury pulls the trigger on a deal.
Yeah, completely agree with everything that you said there. And we got another chat. We should bring back John Scott.
That's
Yes,
a good
get
one by
some real
George.
grit in this lineup.
That would be insane.
That's a great comment. But yeah, I guess to kind of bounce on the question though here, when it came to should the Rangers add another forward, maybe there are guys internal, and the question is, can Will Cuylle and or Brendan Othmann make the opening night roster?
I think they would have to impress a lot these next couple weeks to make the lineup. I think it's a big
Molly and
stretch, I'm
Vince are
saying.
impressed.
Yeah, they are. Look, I think Ottman definitely has the better chance. I really doubt Cully. Maybe Ottman, but like, who
I
do
don't know
you
if I agree with
replace,
that.
man?
I think Will
Really?
Cuylle has the better shot. Yeah, and here's my reasoning why. Brendan Othmann is a guy that you want playing in your top nine, and he's a guy that you're counting on to put up points. Will Cuylle is more of a guy where he could go up and down the lineup wherever. If you want to put him on the fourth line, okay, he'll give you production on the fourth line, won't get the points, but he plays that type of game where you could throw him on the fourth line. Brendan Othmann is a guy where you need him in your top six or top nine. Will Cuylle, you can't you could put him, like I said, wherever. And that's the only reason why I'm thinking Will Cuylle might have an outside shot. Plus the fact that everyone seems to be really high on him and he has the extra year under his belt of experience when it comes to being a pro. So I honestly think Will Cuylle has a better chance than Othman.
That's a fair point. I could see that, but nonetheless, I think it'll be hard. Like at that point, who do you take out of the lineup? Probably one of those fourth line wingers, either if it's Hunt, if it's Reeves. I could see a little Cully action there. That would be pretty cool to
Well,
see.
injuries happen too.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely. I think we'll see them at one point. Probably if an injury happens, they'll be the first to be called up. But yeah, so I would say no, but definitely a decent shot.
There's definitely the argument too for Othman where you don't want him to go back to juniors. He killed it in juniors. How do you just send him back there? And unfortunately, with the way that the rule works, they have to either send him back to juniors or he could only play in the NHL. I forgot exactly what it is. I think it's something with the OHL where he just simply can't walk away from the OHL unless it is to be in the NHL. He cannot go to Hartford, unfortunately. So that's the only reason why I could see Othman being back here because I mean, with the way that he played in juniors, how could you not
Yeah.
want him? And we got a couple other chats here. Motte was injured 50% of the season. See, that's another thing, though, where there was a little bit of a question of people are asking a fair question with it. Is Tyler Motte's injury a little bit more significant? Like, is there something more going on that we don't know about? And to that, I don't know if I could necessarily get behind that idea just because of the fact that Tyler Motte killed it in the playoffs. I thought he was a better player in the playoffs than when we first acquired him, personally. I don't know how you felt, but he was producing offensively too, chipping in a bit. And I just thought overall he was a better player. I don't know if he just had that adrenaline rush in him because it was playoff time or what, but I thought he looked better personally.
Um, I agree with you there. I think he did look better, but Mike brings up a good point. I mean, I saw actually an article today. He missed the 97 of his past 227 games, so he definitely has been dealing with some injuries these last few seasons. Um, do I think that's a reason that made them should have not brought him back? Obviously not. But it plays a role. Injuries happen, and unfortunately, it's happened to Mott a couple times. But I think he just came back and really killed it after the injury, as you said in the playoffs. It didn't look like he was injured at all. He looked like he was at full health. So, I mean, I wouldn't be too concerned with that if I was Chris Jerry in the decision about bringing him back or not. But I guess it just didn't work out in the end.
Yeah, I agree. Because again, injuries happen throughout an 82 game season. It's hockey. Injuries are going to happen. And I just don't think that's fair for a guy like Tyler Mott too. It's not like we're talking about a guy where you're paying him all this money and if he's hurt
Right.
constantly, it's a problem. No, this is a guy that is going to be on your bottom six and you would have been paying him 1.3 million. And to me, I don't know if there's really an argument for injury concerns to be a factor in him not signing. But to go back to Othman now, Mike says Othman should get a 9-game cup of coffee and then go to Flint to work on his center skills. I I don't know if I agree with the 9-game cup of coffee thing because I feel like if he kills it in camp, then you, he's good enough to make the team full time and you play him here. then maybe he gets a cup of coffee. He struggles. Okay, send him back down. But to me, I don't know about the 9-game cup of coffee thing. I know it doesn't affect anything, but it's just what do you do with the lineup in that regard? And I don't know if Gallant's going to want to do that. And management, I don't know if it's smart to just throw him on the fourth line and feed him to the Wolves that way versus sending him back to Flint.
Right. I agree there for sure. Um, I don't know if I would give him the 9-game cup of coffee either. Because Othmann, right? You said he's a player. He's got to be in your top 9. You can't have Othmann trotting out on the fourth line with guys like Barkley, Goodrow, and Ryan Reeves. The play styles are just completely different there. So it's a tough decision. Like, I like Othmann a lot. I think he's going to be a really good player in this league, but I just don't see a place for him on the team to start this year. Maybe that time will come if, God forbid, Kravtsov, Kakko go down. He slots right in. But let's just hope that doesn't happen. And I mean, to work on his center skills, I didn't even know he could really transition that.
I've heard that he could play either wings. I haven't heard anything really about a strong center game, but if the Rangers are going to try to cooperate with Flint and get him to play center, that would be so ideal if he could learn center. That just lengthens this lineup to an absurd
Changes
level.
everything.
That changes the whole thing because Hedl could play the wing then going forward, and you have Othmann in the middle with Trocheck and Zibanejad. That would be absolutely huge. And yeah, you said it here. You send him back to Flint to play center. He has nothing to prove on the wing. I agree there. I definitely agree that he should try to play center if he can, because quite frankly, that's just the more ideal position of value there when it comes to not just overall in hockey, but also just for him with this team and team needs. You need a guy that could play center. So I agree that they should just send him back to Flint to work on his center game if you're not going to have him in the NHL full time.
Yeah, no doubt. I agree with you 100%. I think he's proved on the wing, as you said. If he can play center, you said move Hedl to the wing, and that just creates so much for the Rangers, and that would be big if he could make that transition. It's not an easy one. Center and wing are two completely different things, but I mean, hey, you never know.
Yeah, completely agree. And now circling back again quickly to that fourth line discussion, which after these few comments, we're going to get back on track here. Carpenter should give us pretty close to what Motte did, better at faceoffs and does not get bit by the injury bug. And to that, I agree. And the only thing that makes me really comfortable with Carpenter is he played under Gallant. He knows the system, and I'm sure there was tweaks to the system from when he was with Vegas to here, but he looked comfortable there, and he had career years under Gallant. So I'm feeling comfortable in that regard with Carpenter. But just imagine if the Rangers had Carpenter, Goudreau, and Motte on the fourth line. That is the entire point that I'm trying to nail home here. If you had that fourth line, I'm sorry, but you match that up against any line in hockey, it is going to be a nightmare for teams.
Oh man, that got me thinking. Imagine a fourth line of Goudreau,
By the
Carpenter,
deadline.
that would be some story if Motte came back on the trade deadline. They go on to win the cup. Beside the point, though, we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. Yeah, I like Carpenter, as you said. He was in Gallant's system in Vegas, so I think he could bring us a lot in that regard. He had his best years over there with Gallant, so I think he'll be a similar play style to Tyler Motte. And the fact you got him for only $750,000, I mean, at the league minimum, I think that's pretty good. Like, I thought this guy would have fetched like $1 million. So nice that you got him for the league minimum. It would have been great to get Motte back, but yeah, Goudreau's contract, $3.6 million in that bottom six. I mean, he's a tremendous player. I think he deserves close to every penny of it.